Hi, I'm meteorologist Dave Noble from the National Weather Service Forecast Office in Missoula, Montana, and I'm going to give you an update for the upcoming winter. Precipitation probabilities have increased area-wide from the Climate Prediction Center's forecast for both December and the seasonal forecast for the winter, December, January, February. There is a low chance of any high-impact events during Thanksgiving travel week, so next week. There could be some light precip events leading up to Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving Day, right now we're looking at 40% chance for light mixed precip or snow, especially northwest Montana. Snow levels generally 2,500 to 3,500 feet. Highs near average, 30s, western Montana, 40s in the lower elevations, Idaho. Greater than 100% normal snowpack across the region except over the divide. And then possible dirty ridge building after Thanksgiving into the first week of December. That could bring valley fog and some low clouds. There could be some clipper systems moving out of British Columbia that could bring mixed precip or some light snow. Trying to look in the longer range for any sort of information. Anomalous tropical convection, thunderstorms over maritime continent could keep our pattern status quo through mid-December with possible northwest waves. There is some hints of a more active pattern during the second half of December. So here's the latest and greatest from the Climate Prediction Center for December 2024. We're looking at temperatures equal chances above or below average. There is a 40 to 50% leaning above. For precip, we're looking at 40 to 50% leaning for above average across much of the region, except lower probability across southern Lemhi County. And then for the seasonal outlook, still leaning below average, 40 to 50% chance in northern half and 30 to 40% chance south. As far as the precip, most recent update has increased the probability for above average precipitation across western Montana to a 50 to 60% leaning. So what have we seen so far this November? Pretty mild temperatures in the valleys, decent amount of snowfall in the mountains. Some of the valley locations have received snowfall, which is a good sign. As far as precipitation so far in some of our main climate stations, we're looking at below average, except Kalispell is about a 3/10 above average. As far as the top snowfall for the valley locations, about 2 feet of snow has fallen in Dixie, Idaho, which is located south of Elk City. Trout Creek has 9.5 inches, Seeley Lake 9.5 inches. Those were from Kokoro's reports. 9.4 inches and 7 miles northwest of Anaconda. We have a Kokoro's observer there, and 8 inches in Yak. That's pretty impressive. 2 to 4 inches Kalispell, Flathead Valley. So what is the current state of the El Nino Southern Oscillation? It's currently neutral, although there is signs of some cooler waters in the central Pacific and central and eastern equatorial Pacific. The 7-day trend is showing warming, but one of the global circulations or global teleconnections that we look at, the MJO or the Madden-Julian Oscillation, did interfere with the development of La Nina so far in October into November with some westerly winds that brought milder waters towards the dateline, messed up the cooler water that you want to see in the central equatorial Pacific. So we're in a La Nina watch. Climate Prediction Center is stating a 57% chance of La Nina developing by the end of December. Now on the other side of the probability there, there is a 43% chance that we stay at neutral conditions. So looking at some other forecasts, we're looking at lower left is the CFS V2, which is the American model. It's showing a more robust La Nina conditions developing by January. Other models, other global models, are not so robust and are leaning more neutral. So looking at a comparison of sea surface temperature anomalies from different years, top left is the most recent, showing the negative PDO pattern with the cooler waters along the western North American coast and warmer waters in the northern Pacific. We've been in this negative PDO configuration since at least 2021, the strong magnitude of it. And as you can see, there were negative PDOs in some of the other La Nina years at 2017, and then the neutral years 2013, 2012 had a negative PDO. And then looking at some other years, 2008 was a Nina negative PDO, and then looking back at 96, and we had a weekly positive PDO in November 1996. But if you look across the equatorial Pacific that year, there was cooler than average temperatures from the dateline eastward. So kind of looking at the below ground temperature trend, which is important for us in the northern Rockies, because the colder the ground temps, the propensity for icing up. So looking at current sub-temperatures, thanks to the University of Montana's Zagromet and Hydromet stations, we are getting closer to freezing, especially at 4,000 feet and above. Looking at the trends, we could be nearing freezing by the end of November. This means closer to Thanksgiving, towards next weekend, and the first week of December. You really have to be on your guard for when you're traveling or walking on surfaces that are untreated. Here's our current snowpack. We're looking at 100 to 186% of the median across the west, like towards Idaho, northern Idaho and northwest Montana. We're looking at a lower percent of the median of snow water equivalent along the divide. Looking at the southern half of our region, kind of similar trend. The western areas are over 100% of the median. Further east you go, the lower the percent of the median. This is looking at comparisons of snow depths from December 1st of various years on the top left, and then comparing it to January 1st of the following year. And the bottom graph shows the difference of the two. So the blue colors basically is showing a positive increase of snow depth, and you can see in the 2017-2018 winter, which was a La Nina winter, there was a considerable amount of snowfall increase during the month of December. But overall, I mean, you look at these other La Nina years and neutral years, there was a steady increase of snowfall. Looking at Thanksgiving week, like I said before, there's a chance for some light precip. Could be some mixed precip in some areas, especially northwest Montana divide. During the day on Thanksgiving, we're looking at, highs in the 30s, 40s in Idaho. Could be some cloud cover. Could be some light precip in the mountains. There is a 40% chance for some light precip across northwest Montana during the day on Thanksgiving. And then all this extra snowpack with some clearing skies, potentially clearing skies, could bode for some lows getting close to zero in the glacier region. There's about a 20% chance by next Friday. And then after Thanksgiving, this is the general flow pattern showing that there is a chance for some weak Pacific moisture moving around the ridge by later next weekend and into the first week of December. That could mean bringing these waves that bring a fair amount of cloud cover. Temperature inversions should stay in place. There could be some light precip with it. And like I said before, the ground temperatures are cooling, so the chance for slick conditions increases. But meanwhile, deep subtropical tap north of Hawaii is aimed at British Columbia. Now, if the ridge flattens, we could get more of this sort of subtropical tap, and that could mean a little bit better precipitation for us. And if it's kind of a zonal pattern, then that could mean pretty good snowfall in the mountains, kind of a wet snow. So what are some other global climate patterns that we'd like to look at? Well, one of them is the PDO. That stands for the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. We've been in a negative phase, or the cool phase, since about 2021, strongly negative since 2021. And some of the correlations are weakened Aleutian low. We're talking up towards Alaska. Also, there's been a correlation to cooler winters in Alaska. And this is another potential kind of impact to the PDO. I ran a correlation for the season for PDO and kind of like the general temperatures aloft, like the past 22 years. And there is kind of like a little bit of a correlation for more ridging north of Hawaii with a negative PDO. And when you look at the CFS V2, which is our long-range model, it is showing higher heights or warmer temperatures in the upper atmosphere across the North Pacific. And that could mean potential that we could get sort of this ridge pattern setting up by midwinter, which would put us in more of a northwest flow, which is kind of like that conceptual model for the La Nina, these kind of cold systems diving south, and then that could also open the door for possible Arctics. Another kind of teleconnection that we'd like to look at is the MJO, the Madden-Julian Oscillation. Generally speaking, it's in a large area of enhanced thunderstorms and decreased convection as well that can move west to east across the tropics with a period of 1 to 3 months. This can induce tropical cyclone activity and impact mid-latitude weather. Currently, the MJO enhanced convection signal is over the eastern Indian Ocean. That is kind of like the current satellite snapshot looking over the Western Pacific and Indian Ocean. The red circle shows where the enhanced convection is. Models are predicting that this enhanced convection signal of the MJO is going to shift eastward over to the maritime continent in the next week into early December. The left side, that picture kind of shows you the general phases that the MJO can follow. The green shading is the above average rainfall or enhanced convection mode, and the brown shading is more of the suppressed convection. You know, not always connected with our pattern, but some of the lagged composites, which are basically down the road weather pattern potential over North America when the enhanced convection is over the maritime continent, would suggest there could be possible Arctic interaction towards Christmas. I looked at some other recent neutral and La Nina years where the enhanced convection of the phase of the MJO was over the maritime continent, and it did propagate across the Pacific. There was quite a few years. There was 2022, there was 2017, December 2014, 2010, 2001, 2000, 99, 98, and mid to late December of 96. Looking at the current drought monitor that was released yesterday, November 21st, we're looking at extreme drought across southwest Montana, Sealy Lake south to Lake Wisdom. It's abnormally dry and moderate drought elsewhere in the northern Rockies. And then here's kind of like the drought outlook. This would be all the way through February. We're looking at the removal of the drought is likely, except in those areas where we saw the worst drought. The drought may remain, but with some improvement. So I tried to kind of show what the snowtells did in some of these recent years, La Nina and some neutral years. And you can see there was a decent amount of storm systems that brought an increase of snow depth at some of the snowtells. Here's Noisy Basin Lookout. Here's Elk Butte. This is kind of this is northeast of Elk River in Idaho. And Lolo Pass. And then here is Saddle Mountain, which is near Lost Trail, and Warm Springs, which is near Georgetown Lake. None of these sort of recent years or analogs really depicted any like super low snowpack. That's encouraging, and it goes along with our above average forecast for the season. This is a sped up satellite animation looking across the eastern Pacific, and you can see all the troughs that we received out of the west and northwest, and we started getting some colder troughs that originated in Siberia, and these troughs started to help to bring some of our snowpack in the mountains. This is another water vapor loop looking at the western Pacific, and what you can observe in this loop, you can see multiple typhoons that moved west towards the Philippines, towards the South China Sea. Some of them did recurve, like Super Typhoon Kongray became extratropical and moved up into the North Pacific, and it was impressive to see so many typhoons in a row moving westward. And this was in the wake of the enhanced convection of the MJO that had moved across the Pacific in late October.